FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
This is Kerry Lutz, financialsurvivalnetwork.com, and it's time for another Triple Lutz report. This is episode 340, hard to believe, and the date is March 10th, 2014, entitled, Where Has All the Cash Gone? You know, funny things are happening all over the place. Have you gone to a bank ATM lately? I remember back to the days when they used to spit out brand new Federal Reserve notes, but no more. Now you get old, worn out notes that have long since seen their day. Once upon a time, when a new Treasury Secretary was sworn in, the printing presses at the Bureau of Printing and Engraving in Washington, D.C., rapidly dumped new bills into circulation, and our current TSEC, Jack Lew, he took office on February 27th of 2013, and I defy one reader to send me a copy of a single note, maybe $100 note, but any other note signed by the august Mr. Lew. An article in the Washington Post appeared on June 18th, 2013, mentioned that Mr. Lew had to change his signature because it was indecipherable, much like yours truly's signature. And he was even ribbed by the president, who said, Jack assures me that he is going to work to make at least one letter legible in order not to debase our currency should he be confirmed as Secretary of the Treasury, which, you know, he already was, but, you know, come on, let's face it here. It may come as news to the big guy in the White House. The debasement was already well underway for a century, but we'll leave that discussion for another time. The article went on to state that there's no exact word when the new signature will actually start to appear on bills or notes, as you and I know they are, because we have a debt-based currency. Another article said the new bills should be appearing in late fall. So where are they? And a look at the official government website, moneyfactory.gov, purports to show vast quantities of currency being printed up, over 70 million 20s alone in December. And again, where are they? So I want to know where the missing notes are. Some anecdotal evidence helps cement my case. First, some close friends of mine down in Florida owned a number of ATM machines that were installed in hotels close to the airports. And they were extremely profitable, but unfortunately, they had to exit the business. And the reason why? They couldn't get enough product, money. The quality of the notes they were getting was diminishing. New bills were increasingly hard to come by, and the banks didn't have any. Really strange, isn't it? And what was happening was, because the bills that they had in the machines were older and older and crummier, they were jamming up. And the worst thing that you can have happen to you when you own an ATM is have a jam up. So what happens with these ATMs is when they jam up, you get an email, you get a text, you get a phone call, and my friends are getting getting calls in the middle of the night, come down to this machine, come down to that machine. And sometimes it's happening 2 and 3 times a night. And these are good machines. They're very robust. And sometimes the machines are shorting people, and you just can't have this. So finally they said, all right, enough is enough. This has got to stop. And they wound up selling the machines off. And there were other reasons as well, but this was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. It was enough. So this is evidence point number 1. Number 2, last week I'm at my bank branch and the bank manager is there. So I asked him, when was the last time you got a shipment of new notes in? And he couldn't remember. He said, other than $100 bills, notes, he just could not remember the last time they got new money in that bank branch. And this is, you know that I bank at a very reputable bank. It's called the Too Big to Fail National Bank. So they're tied in with the government. So what does it all mean? I don't know. But are we getting a new dollar, as Jim Willie said? Perhaps. The split dollar, or what he called it, I don't want to repeat here. But we are becoming a cashless society. There's no question about that. The trend is heading in that direction. Credit, debit cards are used in places that would have never been dreamed of several years ago. Gas stations, well, that's been the trend for many years now. Fast food establishments, go to Mickey D's, strip clubs. I mean, just about any place you can think of, they take credit cards. And of course, on the internet, when you do online shopping, yeah, it's all about credit cards. Bitcoin is another evolutionary step for the cashless society. Certain places in Europe, like you go to Norway, the Scandinavian countries, they've all but abandoned cash. And I always liked having cash. Used to carry substantial amount of it on me at all times. Why, I don't really know. It's just the anonymity of cash. The fact that basically a dollar bill is a bearer note, and you don't need to identify yourself. You just give them the cash. Now, I never bought a car for cash, but I bought computers for cash. You know, I bought a lot of things that cost thousands of dollars just for cash. I just liked them not knowing who I was, and I would buy stuff for cash. But then they put these currency transaction reports in about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, where if you spent more than $10,000 in cash, government had to get a report. So that led to people doing these things called niners, which is $9,999 or $9,000. And that led to suspicious transaction reports, STRs, I think they were called. And it's become a whole game. So the government really wants you to give up your cash, and this is evolving. Right now, less than 7% of all transactions that take place involve cash in the U.S. In, I think it's Norway, less than 3% of all transactions involve cash. The government wants you to give up your cash, and most people are more than willing to do it. I've kind of been a holdout, but even myself, most of the transactions that I do in grocery stores, retail establishments, I've relented and I use my credit card. One thing you can do is anonymous debit cards. Amex, if you have less than 500 on a debit card, you don't need to register it in many places. So gift cards, other types of prepaid debit cards don't need it, but it's just not practical for a lot of things. So is it a government plot? We're not getting cash? Well, the amount of cash that you really need in society, the amount of places that take it. Look, you go up in an airplane now and you want to buy a shot of scotch or vodka, they won't take your cash. You have to use a credit or a debit card. And for airlines, it makes total sense because to handle all that cash costs them, in many instances, more than the profit involved in the sale. For headsets, it's like you had to pay them $2 for the headsets, and the transaction cost involved in counting your cash and making sure that the flight attendant didn't steal the cash, just absurd. And for them, it makes total sense not to take cash. And I don't know if you could buy an airline ticket for cash at an airport now. If you've bought one for cash, I'd love to know about it. Just send me an email and tell me your thoughts about this. And if you've gotten a bill with a Jack Lew signature on it, Series 2013, send me a copy of it, a partial copy. Don't break any laws. FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. More on this up next. And we are back. We're talking about the cashless society. What the heck is going on? How come we don't have these new bills? It's been bothering me for a while. You've heard me talk about it. I'm troubled about it. So, hey, next story here on the Financial Survival Network on this Triple Lutz Report, episode 340. You talk about, I came from this world here. Guy buys some Girl Scout cookies for $42, and no good deed shall go unpunished. So writes them a check, and guy Tad Osborne out of Fort Collins, Colorado, buys a dozen boxes and has the cookies with his family. Now, you could argue whether those cookies are good for you or bad. For one thing, loaded with sugar, bad for you. Probably GMO, genetically modified flour in there and all sorts of bad stuff. And, but anyway, donate them to a homeless shelter, whatever you want to do. I just give them money at this point because the kids are trying to do something good. And when I see them, I just give them the money, say, donate the cookies to a shelter or something. So something happens, the check comes back, it bounced. And he said the money was there, but the account came back as closed. So then he gets a bill for $82, supposedly. He called the Girl Scout troop who directed him to an office in Denver. Somebody called him back. They said his account was marked as closed. And first time that they had a problem there because his account was not closed. He explained to the Girl Scouts that his account wasn't closed, even asking his bank manager to send a letter that his account had remained open. And the Girl Scouts bank evidently had a problem processing the check. It happens in a very small number of instances. And the Girl Scouts are mum on this one. They're just a public service entity. When you start getting public service entities involved in business, then all hell breaks loose. And organization sells 3.5 million boxes of cookies a year. They didn't want to comment on pending litigation. And when a check is reported as a bad debt by the troop's bank, troop attempts to contact the customer, and then the council attempts to resolve the debt, and then they give it out to a collection agency. The problem is Osborne said he was never notified and said he never received a phone call, a letter, knock on the door, nothing, saying that the check had bounced. They send it out to a collection agency who sues Osborne for $740, of which the bulk is $450 in attorney's fees, court fees, and principal costs. So it sounds like a bit excessive. And office manager for AAA collectors also declines to comment. And Osborne had to pay $100 to file a legal response just so the agency doesn't get a default judgment. And he's a little upset that he had to pay $100 to defend himself. And the attorney for the agency is this guy, Randall Purvis, who asked if Osborne wants to settle. Osborne, of course, doesn't. And he's got a trial date on for May 8th. And, nonetheless, he still believes in the Girl Scouts. He bought more cookies this year, and his daughter became a Girl Scout. He said he likes the Girl Scouts and their cookies. He has no problem donating money to them, but this year he's not writing a check. He's using cash, and this ties in real nicely. Unfortunately, Osborne, pretty soon you're not going to be able to use cash. You're going to have to use Bitcoin or some equivalent there too, because you're not going to have any paper money. That's what the Federal Reserve is coming to. That's their plan for you, evidently, or you're going to have the split dollar, as Jim Willey says. So I sympathize with you, having been in the collection industry for many, many, many a year, but you have got problems here. And what can I tell you? Hey, next one comes from my home state, my newly adopted home state of Florida, and speed trap accused of corruption, threatened with extinction, and it's called the dirtiest city in the country, the most corrupt town in America. I don't know. There's so much competition. How could you say that one town is more corrupt than the other? Although this town just existed to be corrupt. And this is just such a great story. You got to check it out on CNN.com. I mean, it's the sheriff. Was it the sheriff or the mayor of the town? He got arrested for selling OxyContin, and a state audit of the town of Hampton's books released last month. It reads, as they say here, it reads like a primer on municipal malfeasance. It found 31 instances in which local rules or state or federal rules were violated in ways large and small. Maybe they should change the name of Hampton to Rico, Florida. Racketeer influenced corrupt organization. That would probably be better. So they want to basically dissolve this town, and they want the city gone. The sooner the better. And somewhere along the way, the place became more than just a speed trap. Some say the ticket money corrupted Hampton, making it the dirtiest little town in Florida, which is saying something, because Florida has seen enough civic shenanigans to lead the nation in federal corruption prosecutions and convictions, something I didn't know. According to a 2012 study, 1,760 of Florida's public officials had been convicted of corruption since 1976, which is a little disappointing to me. They're obviously not trying hard enough to get these guys if they only got 1,760 of them, because I just think they're all corrupt. But I have the good sense here of not getting involved. Just let them do what they want and stay away from them. And it's a group called Integrity Florida, which is just a total oxymoron here. Let's face it. Dan Krasner, it's the group's co-founder, says it's a mess. The city's prospects, they don't look good. And criminal investigation is gaining steam. On Friday, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement investigators, the Bradford County Sheriff's detectives searched Hampton City Hall. The door of the police chief's office was removed from its hinges as investigators combed the tin-roofed building for documents and other evidence. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. And The local sheriff, never at a loss for a colorful turn of phrase, has a theory. The speeding tickets were such a cash cow, they proved to be Hampton's undoing. It became serve and collect instead of serve and protect. Cash register justice, Sheriff Gordon Smith said. Do y'all remember the old Dukes of Hazzard, Boss Hogg? They make Boss Hogg look like a Sunday school teacher. And whom did the pipeline of easy money corrupt in this postage stamp sized town with fewer than 500 people? And if money is missing, how much are we talking about? As much as $1 million. Where did it all go? It's just amazing what you could do when you're really motivated. This is a case of real American ingenuity. And, they're going to, by the end of April, they're just going to dissolve the town. Some residents think it's a crying shame, but, it's just great. I mean, they like things like they overpaid the city clerk by $9,000. Employees ran up $27,000 on the city credit card, charged another $132,000 on an account at the convenience store at the BP gas station next door to City Hall. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. It's just incredible. And they set up this speed trap on US 301, and man, you just couldn't believe the things that they're pulling here. And then at the meantime, they're busy giving out all these speeding tickets, and there's drug dealing taken on there like it's going out of style. And I guess looks like there's a lot of inbreeding taking place in this town. So we've got a lot more on this Triple Lutz report. And yeah, we got to talk more about this because it's things like this that made America great, right? So, yeah. Stay out of Hampton, Florida. Although you won't have to much longer. You won't be able to get into Hampton, Florida, because it won't exist. Up next on the Triple Lutz Report, I'm Kerry Lutz.
Urgent alert. Ex-Secret Service agent claims it's worse than people know. One of Obama's former Secret Service agents recently smelled a rat. What he discovered inside our government was so devastating, he only saw one option. He quit. What's worse, he fears what he found could affect your job, your neighborhood, and most importantly, your family, very soon. It's worse than people know, he said in a recent interview, and I'm not trying to scare you either. We too share his concerns. This is why we've devoted the better part of 3 years collecting solutions for nearly all problems created by intrusive governments, and we've succeeded. Go to hiddensecrets1.info to check out all the details. Our panel of insiders have devised a legal but sneaky set of solutions to help you reclaim your privacy from the NSA, opt out of Obamacare, and make a bundle from little-known investments and small business opportunities. Simply visit hiddensecrets1.info. That's Hidden Secrets, the number 1.info.
And we are back. Kerry Lutz on the FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. This is Triple Lutz Report 340. So we're talking about this crazy place, Hampton, Florida. And you know that there's a lot of inbreeding going on in places like Hampton. It looks like it's about an hour north of Gainesville. I mean, so this guy Hodges, he becomes a police chief in Hampton, and this place was just nuts. The Hampton cops, they're fixtures on US 301. They sat on lawn chairs, pointing radar guns at unsuspecting motorists. They hid behind recycling bins, and more money pours in. They idled in slick SUVs, trolled the median strips in riot gear, and toted state-of-the-art firepower. And locals gave one the nickname Rambo because he slung an AR-15 rifle across his chest, all to write tickets. And the money just poured in. They were just out there writing tickets galore. I mean, you hear these sirens all day long, lighting everybody up. And AAA Auto Club of South labeled Hampton a traffic trap and warned members about the town, along with Lodi and Waldo, on its maps. And AAA also, they put up billboards along US 301, and people complained that Hampton officers were stopping them without cause, leaving kids and pets in hot cars and impounding cars based on outdated allegations that surfaced in computer searches. And the sheriff's department investigated some of these complaints. That's the county sheriff's department. But those inquiries never went anywhere. And the sheriff was bristling at the interference. And, you know, this just went on and on. They were just pulling this money in. $600,000 in 2010. The peak year came in 2011 when there were 9,515 speeding tickets, just bringing in ridiculous amounts of money, over $1 million. And that was the year that State Representative Charles Van Zandt got his speeding ticket. He says he drove directly to the courthouse in Starkey and paid it. And he insists he carries no grudge, but later he observed, when I got my ticket, you couldn't hardly pass by Hampton without getting a ticket. And you can say that's law enforcement, but no, that's banking using the U.S. highway system. And by 2012, Smith was playing hardball. That's the county sheriff. He questioned whether the city had legally annexed the 1,260-foot stretch of US 301. He said that nobody could find a document recording the easement there. And he also said he believed that Hampton was illegally tracking cars with its radar outside the city limits. Government run amok. You give them an inch and they take 1,260 feet, you know? And he persuaded a judge to dismiss Hampton's tickets and cut the city's officers off the county radio and National Criminal Record Database. He ordered his deputies not to accept Hampton's prisoners at the county jail. It just doesn't get any better than this. This guy, Smith, sounds like a real libertarian. And responding to the pressure, Hampton took down its speed trap. The ticket money for 2012 dropped more than 40% from the previous year. And Smith and Van Zandt weren't finished with Hampton. They wanted to follow the money. On April Fool's Day of 2013, Van Zandt asked the state auditor general to step in and go over the city's books. And lots of money was pouring in there, obviously. And Hampton had plenty of police officers and shiny new cars, but there was no sign that any other services had improved. And this guy Hodges is a piece of work. He didn't return CNN's calls requesting comment. He has retired from his $400 a week job as chief, leaving Hampton without a police force. Obviously, $400 a week plus all he could steal. Just kidding. Sheriff Hodges, don't sue me. The sheriff's department has been patrolling the city for more than a year. Hodges has said he plans to run against Smith in the next election. They got a picture of the fire engine here from Hampton, and the thing is like falling apart. He told a local newspaper, the Gainesville Sun, that he considers the audit a one-sided political witch hunt, even though he acknowledged he didn't read it. I wonder if he knows how to read. The city hall is locked up tight. Trucks parked out back have been stripped of parts and left to rust. The mail is piling up. There's no money coming in. So the last 3 employees have walked off the job. You know, this is the way libertarian is supposed to work. Limited government. You don't need a Hampton City Hall. You don't need a Hampton City. and let's get rid of it. So they've basically given up, dumped the place, and that's the way it should be. And, you know, the jailed mayor talks about his disability checks as his salary, and Smith, the sheriff, believes that the folks at City Hall came to treat their government perks in much the same way as if they were entitlements. He said that residents complained to him that police officers and other employees drove city cars home without signing them out. They took them out to run personal errands at Walmart, and when they filled them up at the BP station, they brought lawnmowers and gas cans from home and all put it on the city charge card. The audit was harshest on the former city clerk, Jane Hall. Didn't accuse her of any crimes, but called into question her handling of some of the city's business. She acknowledged to CNN that she isn't the most organized person and had no formal training in bookkeeping and accounting, but the books always passed muster with outside accountants the city hired, she said. And she was camera shy when CNN visited, but later defended herself at length during several phone conversations and email exchanges, and she provided spreadsheets and other documentation to support her points. And, you know, it's just multiply this times tens of thousands of governmental entities that are unnecessary, that are soaking up your tax dollars all over the country. I mean, it just is happening all over the place. In New Jersey has more government employees per square mile per capita than any place else, and they're just parasitic. I mean, this is just one small example in Florida, and they just happen to get in under the radar screen till finally enough of you made enough noise that the state finally came in and slammed them. But it's not unusual. It's not unheard of. And it just keeps going on and on. Finally, enough people said, we've had it. The AAA was involved, and they were just stealing money out and out. And speeding tickets, nobody's real sympathetic to speeders. But, you know, the fact is, a lot of these speeding laws are antiquated. They just treat us drivers out there with dollar signs on our backs and targets. But the reality is they could care less about public safety. And the CNN is saying, can Hampton save itself? I hope not. And so across from City Hall, behind the BP station where the city ran up 132,000 tab, a typical Hampton house with a no trespassing sign slowly collapses into itself. Wires run from the house to a camper out back, and children are playing in the grass on a broken swing set. And it's just a sorry state, this Hampton. They probably should just, you know, start with a bulldozer from one end of the town to the other. It sounds like a disgusting place. You know, it has no reason for existing other than being a speed trap. And, you know, get rid of the town. It doesn't need to be there. Smith's family, who has lived in Hampton most of, well, this is a different Smith. Everybody's named Smith there. Justice Smith, who has lived in Hampton most of her life. This is embarrassing, she says, for all of us. I think people just got lazy. Nobody was paying attention. Her family runs a successful business fixing up bank-owned homes, which there doesn't seem to be any shortage of. But she thinks the place might be too far gone. And for Hampton to make a comeback, there'll have to be a plan that provides confidence quickly. And there's no confidence left in Hampton. So Hampton is toast. It's gone. And, you know, move on. There's a lot of Florida that's just empty swamp, and there's nothing wrong with that. It adds to the eco structure of the state. You know, let it go back to nature. Nothing wrong with some more nature. And we need nature in Florida. We don't need more speed traps. Hopefully they got rid of the other speed traps as well. I sure hope so. Because, look, it was a parasitic entity like most government is. It outlived its usefulness. It's gone. So we got some more good things up on the financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Next, I'm Kerry Lutz. We'll be right back. We are back. I'm Kerry Lutz, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. So if you remember, Commrade DeBlasio wants to get rid of the carriage horse industry in Manhattan, mainly because the Clinton Park stables house 78 Central Park carriage horses, prime real estate for one of Commrade DeBlasio's biggest boosters, Edison parking lots and real estate, and the Edison Corporation, a New Jersey corporation that wants to take that real estate and do mixed use developments and make hundreds of millions of dollars. And Liam Neeson blasts Mayor de Blasio for skipping the carriage horse stable tour. He said he should have manned up and come. And this came from the New York Daily News, Mort Zuckerman's publication. The nonstop actor hosted a dozen city council members at the Clinton Park stables, which housed these horses, and expressed his anger at Commrade DeBlasio's absence. Neeson also ripped de Blasio's plan to replace the carriages with electric cars, which is the stupidest thing I personally have ever heard. De Blasio wants to get rid of these horses, which have been there since at least the horse-drawn carriages, which have been a fixture in Central Park since at least 1858, before the Civil War, and have guys drive like these antique-looking electric cars. And there were a dozen city council members there. I don't know if he's going to be able to get away with it or not. That'll be interesting to see. But he invited all 51 council members to the stables to show that the horses are treated humanely in a bid to derail the mayor's plan to ban the industry. There's contracts, there's franchise agreements. How is the city going to be able to pull this off? I don't know. He said these horses are well cared for, and he's become the carriage driver's highest profile ally at the stables. It's a connection with our past, he said, connection with our history, and it has to be said, the great white elephant in the room, 4 prime locations on the west side of New York that realtors must be salivating to get their hands on. And Mayor de Blasio, the no-show, says he's a fan of Liam Neeson, but won't tour the stables. He said de Blasio did say he was going to go visit them, but of course, who knows? And de Blasio said, I'm firm about the fact that we have to make this move. And, so the council speaker, Melissa Mark Viverito, another hyphenated last name, I don't understand these things. The reason I want to visit the stables, and we'll do it when the schedule allows, is because we want to work with the folks who operate those horse carriages and get them new opportunities in other types of related work, he said, citing a proposal to replace the carriages with antique electric cars. We want to make sure we're listening to their concerns as we do it, but I'm clear where we need to go. And during the tour, Neeson made hay with de Blasio's electric car idea. The mayor wants to replace them with electric cars. That's exactly what New York needs. More cars. This experiment has been tried with electric cars in San Francisco, and it failed abysmally, he said. And one of the councilmen, Constantinides, said he backs the drivers. And Jimmy Fallon is on board with Liam Neeson as well. And I'm a progressive, so I'm not looking to put 350 families out on the street, he said. Republican Minority Leader Vincent Ignazio of Staten Island said he remains torn on the issue. The horses clearly seem calm and like it's their home. If there are legitimate concerns regarding safety of the animals, then let's bring them out and have a conversation about a compromise plan. Advocacy group New York Class, which we already talked about. It's a scam group created by Edison Park. Parking lots, think money laundering, not necessarily that Edison Park is a money launderer, but you got to question their motivation behind setting up this group. Said the stable's conditions aren't the primary reason to ban the carriages. It's the inhumanity of horses working in dangerous midtown traffic. Horses are easily spooked, and forcing them to work in loud, congested Lincoln Tunnel traffic is cruel and unsafe, the group said in a statement, like they could care less. Come on, give me a break. People are on to this DeBlasio. He is a phony. He rewards his friends, the real estate developers. It's a total scam. And, he sets up speed traps all over the city to catch people speeding. And what's he about? He's running stop signs and he's doing everything that he's out there ticketing people for doing. And this is what progressivism is about. It's a fraud. That's all they do. They just go out and pick winners and pick losers, plain and simple. Okay? So next time you're wondering what Comrade Bill is about, Okay, I hope you understand that. Do you understand it at this point? You've been listening to Financial Survival Network long enough to get it? Because Comrade DeBlasio is a fake. He's a fraud. And it's just amazing to me how quickly you've caught on to him. I mean, I knew it from the get-go, but I knew you'd figure it out because the Comrade, this is what he does. And hey, it's just a matter of time before people caught on to it. But I knew you'd get it. I knew it. So this guy, Jonathan Turley, constitutional law professor at George Washington University, what they like to call lib. I don't like right, left, okay? Libertarianism. Personal freedom, freedom for the individual to do what you want to do. Your body, your life. You want to kill yourself, fine. You want to do drugs, fine. I don't care as long as you don't hurt others in your pursuit of what you consider to be happiness, gratification, whatever. So, but he's an honest liberal, which actually I thought to be an oxymoron. But he has great respect for the Constitution's separation of powers, and he has been warning for years about growing power of the executive branch at the expense of Congress and the courts. Had an op-ed in the Los Angeles Times and said that the United States is at a constitutional tipping point. The rise of an Uber presidency unchecked by the other two branches, massive shift of authority threatens the stability, functionality of our tripartite system. That's with three branches, executive, legislative courts, okay? Checks and balances. That's the way Madison designed it. So they hated each other and they would zealously keep each other from gaining too much power. Worked great for decades. Bush, it's been eroded going back to LBJ, really going back to allowing presidents to undertake war actions without the approval of Congress. And he said that Madison fashioned a government of three bodies locked in synchronous orbit by their countervailing powers. And now Obama is really taking it to new lengths. And he lists 7 of the 37 unilateral changes made by him in implementation of his health care law. And then he gets to the heart of the matter that he happens to agree with many of the president's policies. However, in our system, it is often more important how we do something than what we do. Priorities and policies and presidents change. Democrats will rue the day of their acquiescence to the shift in power when a future president negates an environmental law or an anti-discrimination law or tax laws. To be clear, Obama is not a dictator. We could take issue with that. But there is a danger in his aggregation of executive power. Our system is changing in a fundamental way without even a whimper of regret. No one branch in the Madisonian system can go it alone. Not Congress, not the courts, and not the president, but that's what the president is attempting to do right now. That's what he said he was going to do in his speech, the State of the Union speech. And he actually applauds, well, he doesn't applaud it, but Ted Cruz and his allies on the Hill is the one group of legislators that are attempting to stop the president from doing it, that are fighting it. And love him or hate him, at least he's calling the president out. And in prior years, it was the courts that were really usurping the power. Now it's the president. It's real hard for the Congress to usurp power, but they've done it too in creation of these independent agencies, in regulating speech, in campaign contribution regulation. All the branches have done it. Anyway, don't forget, visit our sponsor, Owings Metals. Kevin Drost, great guy, Wearable Wealth. They've really taken it to new extremes. Great company, honest, trustworthy, reliable. OwingsMetals.com. Kerry Lutz, FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Talk to you again soon. This has been another Triple Lutz Report. Kerry Lutz signing off.
Do you have Medicare or health insurance through your employer? If so, listen up. The healthcare reform wasn't written to save the healthcare industry or even to lower healthcare costs. Shoot, it isn't even designed to insure the uninsured. It's just a temporary political byproduct. Like a flat rock you step on in a swiftly moving stream, Obamacare is just a means to an end. Want to learn more about Obama's ultimate objective? Then you'll want to review our latest research presentation found on OCLies.com. In it, a health expert and industry insider explains what you think you know about caring for your health is about to drastically change in 2014. Plus, he details the simple steps you could take to save thousands of dollars per year in health costs. It's free for you to preview at OCLies.com. Don't waste time. What you don't know about the healthcare reform could hurt you and your family.